My big bold prediction: Donald Trump, death. GOP, death. And a weird thing that's going to happen with the GOP getting a lot of money, which pisses me off. And I know it'll piss you off too. So listen very carefully. Donald Trump, death. Two ways he's going. And it's happening in four different scenarios. He's either going to die by, and I hope not. I'm not encouraging this, but he could die by assassination. He could die by health. Okay, he could go out again. I'm still not wishing death on him. I'm not. I don't want God's will to be done. The reason I'm not wishing death on him is because I want him to go to jail. So here's the second thing to understand about this death. There's the political deaths. The first political death is going to be Epstein list. They are definitely, notice the thing I'm holding up here. They are definitely screwing them over this. If he redacts those files, it's his ass. But if he releases them, it's still his ass. And they're going to command it over the next several months to pull this guy out of the running, because the more he goes off with all the weird tangents and craziness, it's going to happen. The second thing, the grifting. Do you know how much grifting this man is doing? He is doing the biggest in U.S. history, and he's going to get caught. Now, if he doesn't get caught, I guarantee you that the people around him will. There's a lot of jail time for people. And the way it's looking, that if he's kicked out of the Epstein situation and put off, is a good chance that he's going to be in trouble and his people are going to be in trouble. The quickest we can get him away from presidency. Gets better. Keep listening. Here's the thing I want you to understand about all of this, that these things are one thing, whether it be physically or politically, him dying. But he's dragging the GOP down with him, and they know it. How do we know it? Because there's been a mass exodus that have happened. Because this mass exodus that's going on, you got tons of both House members and senators who are saying, I'm not running again. They messed up. They followed this clown out of fear. They got bullied into this pulpit like crazy. And then what's crazy is not only did this happen, but it got interesting because they went for the big, beautiful bill despite their own states screaming, no, don't do it. They cut billions from their own states. They're done. They're done. It's going to be a blue wave, and Democrats are coming in. And there's a good chance that they're coming in before we even get to the midterms. Mike Johnson is getting ready to be non-speaker. The Dems could take it in a matter of months. We're on track to destroy these people and kick them out as much as they've destroyed themselves. But it gets even better. We have investigations going on. There's stuff going on behind the scenes that people don't know about. It's just only rumored. It's talked about in circles. I've only shared this in one group in the last 24 hours privately, but there are people who are part of governors, attorney generals, county and parish presidents, mayors of blue cities, as well as the Congress on the Hill, both the House and the Senate, and military are now having conversations with each other. I want you to think about that. Because military have been talking to each other, to themselves for a minute. But now the conversations are happening. And what these conversations are doing, they're talking about what is the scenario to get this guy out? What is the scenario if he turns on us and tries to command the military to hurt somebody? What is the scenario? Many of you have asked me over the last 9 months, well, Darren, isn't it going to be martial law and insurrection? Nope. That's what I said for 9 months. Has there been martial law and insurrection? He sent ICE troops. He sent National Guard. And how did that work out? He even tried to send Marine Reserve. How did that work out? The courts shot him down. They shot him down. The Supreme Court can only take 1% of the cases. So they can't save him every time he gets screwed up when he's got almost 700 cases out there and hundreds of roughly 677 judges in lower courts handle 99% of courts. All aren't on our side, but at least we've seen a track record over the last 43 weeks of Reagan, both Bush, and Trump-appointed judges shooting them down, like in Texas, where they shot down the gerrymandering that they were trying to do. That was a Trump-appointed judge. What I'm saying to you is that these tides are turning against him and he's not able to control it. So the judges aren't listening on the lower courts and he can't take everything to the upper courts. The governors and attorney generals going into 2026 are going to now number, 27? They're going to outnumber, they're going to be the majority of the union fighting back, and they've been fighting back. They have helped us over and over again. He tried to freeze Medicaid in the first 3 weeks. He tried to freeze $1 trillion in the first 3 weeks, and it didn't work. And during these 11 months, you had these idiots over in the Senate and the House on the Republican side sitting there trying to vote for the big, beautiful bill to make into a law to cut their own states by the billions. They're over. It's done. It's a wrap. They're not going to be able to push this narrative anymore. But here's the bombshell I've been telling all of you to wait for. This is the one. I'm going to give it to you early, baby. Check this out. Here's what's crazy. To be a senator, to be a House member, to be a chief ranking person in a cabinet, when you go to the private sector, see, they're retiring, but they're not. Like MTG, perfect example. She's getting her pension. Ain't this a bitch? Yeah, she did it real well. After investing insider trading millions of dollars, after, screwing up everybody else's money, she gonna make sure hers taken care of while she's fucked everybody else over. And people voted for it. And then she had all those people kicked out of her town hall meetings and talked at them like they were nothing. The other thing is that you have her stepping out, thinking that maybe she could go for president. She can go for senator. Ain't gonna happen either way. But I tell you this is an interesting thing that's going to happen with this exodus. A lot of these people can go into private practice and make a lot more money than they ever did with the government. See, a congressperson makes $174,000. But if they're lawyers, they could easily push $250,300,000 just based on their connections in the lobbying and everything else. They're connected at the highest level. Let's say they're not lawyers. They can go into consultancy, same money. At a same level with, again, DC connections, higher level, and their name, just their name alone could push it. There's a lot of these people who you might say, they're vile. There's no way they make any money. They make money in their circles. They're loved in their circles. Hey, I'm 30 years marketing branding. I'm telling you. The other thing you got to look at with this death of the GOP is who's going to replace them. That's what we got to do. That's what we got to look at. Because the goal ideally would have been the Democrats, but the Democrats were so stupid, they should have did what AOC and Bernie did earlier this year, was run out there and say, listen, we're not campaigning or anything, but we want to tell you how to reach your Congress, and we want to tell you what's really going on. Even the Republicans would appreciate that. They might give them a shot without them ever even asking. But they didn't do that. So who do they have left? Another Republican, because if they're hardcore Republican, they don't want to vote for Democrats. Who are the Republicans coming in to replace them? Well, obviously, they have to be anti-Trump. Anti-Trump means even if Trump's out of office and JD's in office, they become anti-JD. They ain't hearing it. It's going to be hard for JD to run the Congress the way that Trump has in the last 11 months. Very hard. And what happens in this whole death and this whole scenario is that these chumps get more money going into private practice. Yeah. Even if MTG runs for president or Senate, do you know there's ways, loopholes, that she could keep her candidacy money if she doesn't win? So she builds up a bag, gets all these people to get this money, and she can manipulate that. Yeah, facts. What I'm trying to get you to understand is that this can get real weird in the coming months. This man is on his way out, one way or another, health or, politically, or both. The GOP on their way out. The thing that we have to do going forward is this, and this is where you really need to listen. We need to look at the primaries. Get on indivisible.org and join their email list. They're trying to watch primaries for Democrats because we need to find the progressives. Fuck this traditional shit. Because traditional people are screwing us all over. The traditional people are taking our money left and right. They've been screwing us over for years, for decades, and now it's time to change and go further left. The other thing we got to watch is what is the amount of aggressiveness that the Democratic Party is going to use to return things back, to prosecute as much as execute on the changeovers that need to happen. They cannot fuck around. They need to move fast as much as they move. Trump move fast. Don't be a bunch of wussies about it. You need to step up to your game and make everything happen. Now, I want you to understand, out of all of this scenario, here's the truth. We only control so much. And I know you don't like hearing that. You want to somehow see it. But sitting there waiting for this to happen. You know how much time we got until we can get past all of this? Do you know? I counted down by the weeks. We're in the 43rd week of Trumpism. We got another 61 weeks to go. Okay, if I'm doing that right. Yeah, 161 weeks to go. And I know it seems very depressing. Well, I'm sorry, 165. And I know it seems very depressing. You get very mad. But I want you to understand, during that time, there's some key things you got to understand. Stop thinking that calling your Congress is going to work. It's important to do it, but that ain't the only play. It's much more complicated than this. Stop thinking that AIPAC is, anybody on AIPAC is the enemy. No, there were a lot of Congress people in both the House and the Senate who stood with us, who didn't cave, who stood with us, who had AIPAC money. AIPAC ain't the determining factor. There's a lot of people who are young who are coming in, but they're not necessarily progressives, and they could be corrupted, just like those who are in the traditional way were corrupted themselves or were corrupt to begin with. Then there are people who we got to look at, not only in the young, we got to look for the progressives, we got to look for people who are willing to fight separately regardless of what the heck the status quo says. That's what makes Jasmine Crockett and AOC stand out, because of their ability to capitalize on saying in the room what most people will not say. That is very important. The other thing you got to understand in this whole matter, as far as Congress is concerned, they have to, and this is a lesson that the blue governors have to, the blue governors, attorney generals, and mayors have to understand. Trump is about marketing. And the one thing I repeatedly said all year is that Democrats have a marketing problem. Here's the marketing problem. They're not communicating enough to their people. I'm sure you agree with that. They're not communicating enough with their people. What they should be doing is communicating, even when they fuck up. Just communicate. That's what Trump does. But Trump doesn't claim to fuck up. He goes out and says, I'm doing great, we're still doing great, even though he fucked up. What I'm saying is his communication to his audience is brilliant. Even when it's shit that the audience don't like, even if it's shit that he messed up, he's still communicating. The important part here is the communication. I said this about Mamdani, and everybody got mad at me. I said it about Mamdani. I said it about the New Jersey and Virginia Democratic governors, too. And he said, can we have 24 hours to celebrate? I said, no, bitch. Are you kidding? This is Trumpism. Their shit is 24/7. 7-Eleven looks at them with admiration. I can't believe they're doing this. 7-Eleven sitting there looking like, shit, you guys are off the hook. 7-Eleven. 24/7 news cycle. How do we know? Well, in June on his birthday, we had 5 million people for the first No Kings Day with people out there. And I had to help people understand something. After that, what happened? He did, I might bomb Iran. Inside of 6-7 days, he killed off 5 million people protesting across 2,000. Our biggest thing we have to do is share this video and share other creators who are doing the following. Not the latest news. Fuck that. That's called the alarmists. They go out there, breaking news. And it's not just one person. People always want to ask me, well, what about this person or that person? No. Stop getting the breaking news. Get somebody who's telling you the meaning behind the news. The other thing you need is to stop listening to the conspiracy theorists. So, I believe this thing happened. Listen, I understand it happened, but we can't go after them stealing the you-know-what right now. We got to wait until these guys are out of office, period. It's going to happen, but we got to wait. And the evidence is already gathered. Stop sitting there. You got 65 weeks to go. Do not waste that with your time. The third thing is leave the doomsday people. The people who say, he's an autocrat, he's a dictator, he controls everything. Bullshit. 43 weeks, we found out he don't control shit. He ain't been able to take on the Constitution. He tried and keep failing. He's lost 70% in the lower courts, and he can't take everything up to the Supreme Court because they only handle 1%. He is failing. His own Trump-appointed judges are ruling against him, just like they did with Texas and gerrymandering. So stop talking this shit about, oh, he controls everything. The other thing is stop believing these people doomsday saying he's an autocratic dictator and fascism. You know why? Because if I did what I did and other people talked about him in Russia, they talk about their Russian leaders. They talk about their Chinese leaders, their Vietnam leaders. They talk about their Iran leaders, their North Korea leaders. What's going to happen to them? They'll be in jail and dead or both. We are not. He is not able to do that because of the history, operation, and laws of our government and the structure. He's having a hard time getting over that. I'm not. I think it's beautiful. Be cool. Chill. Understand the following. That it's a process, and it's a long process, yes. But our justice system is definite, even with Pam Bondi there. Pam Bondi's going to turn state's evidence, y'all. That's the only way she doesn't go to jail. She could go to jail and be a hard G figuring she ain't going to go to jail, but the writing on the wall says she go jail bye-bye if she don't turn state's evidence and turn on everybody else. See, 70% of that cabinet is going to jail, 30% is turning them in, turning state's evidence. Now, here's what I want you to know that I haven't said before. This is the part I want you to grasp that I haven't said before that's really exciting. This process that's taking a long time, there are people in our civil government who have been helping. Ex-intelligence as well as current intelligence officers who've been gathering information for investigations. That's not made up. That is my absolute bold belief because I've seen it. I've seen people go and say, listen, I got to look into this. Now, they're ready to bring something when it's time to bring something, but they'll have something to bring. The other thing I want you to understand is if you're worried about him stealing the election, everybody knows it, and they're preparing for it. For instance, when they're sending those 10 people out to each state, the states, particularly the Democratic states, are sending 20 people back. So if you're trying to manipulate the blue states, nice try. Here's the other thing you don't know. Civil servants saved us in 2020. That meant in the red states and in the blue states. Remember how Giuliani got in trouble? He got in trouble with the red state over in Georgia. Those 2 black women sued his ass and broke him. And he's been bouncing around trying to avoid it and everything. Oh, hell no. You mess with civil servants. Civil servants don't play. You don't shit on their name, and they stand up on their numbers. They don't care whether it's, Republican win, Democratic win. It's like messing with the Board of Labor statistics. That lady's got a lawsuit coming among the other 700 lawsuits out there because he fired her, and it was like, are you nuts? That's the numbers person. That's like firing your accountant, not for stealing, but just for counting and giving you real numbers. The point is, he's on the way out. The point is, the GOP is going with him because he's dragging them with him. The point is, I don't want him to die. I want him to bleed out by getting kicked out through Epstein and then becoming a target for everybody because he no longer has immunity and they can come for him and the states come for him and tear him down. That's my prediction. My prediction is that Trump's death and GOP's death is going to lead to our win. But my biggest concerns, and should be yours as well, is will the Democrats have enough balls to finally show up with some confidence once they're in power again? Because they fucked it up in the Biden era tremendously. He should have never been able to run for office. Period. He should be in jail right now. We all agree with that, right? Just put jail in the comments. Jail him in the comments. Also, when you look at the bigger picture of this, is that it's a long-term process, but this is why Trump's been losing 70% of the time in the lower courts, because we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. They're not. That's how they just lost to Comey and in the Letitia Johnson case. It's so funny to me. Letitia James case. It's so funny to me because you're going up against lawyers, the former director of the FBI. You're going at the U.S. Attorney of New York, who gave you a felony. There's an old scene from the TV show The Wire from Omar. He says, hey, if you come at the king, you best not miss. And they went after These top people, and the crazy part is Letitia can clap back on him if they found him with minors over on the Epstein stuff, not to mention going into all his other business stuff. She could break his ass down. You fucking with the wrong one. That's why he's nice to Mamdani. I want you to understand the biggest thing is we got a waiting game. It's ugly, but we got a waiting game. Hang tight, hold tight, and relax and realize what's going on. See, the biggest thing we need to understand is when we decode the data of him lying, of him misdirecting, and of him just trying to brainwash the left, thinking he can do things that he can't do. That's the number one question I get asked. How's he getting away with this? He's not. He's getting away with this because it is coming for him. And then two, how do you identify the real data that works? Well, of course, you're here, but the whole idea is you got to begin to say, okay, there's something going on statistically that just ain't right, that ain't making sense. And then things number three is developing you. And I haven't really talked much about this. I'll say it in this couple of seconds. What are you doing to drop the conspiracy theorists, the alarmists, the conspiracy theorists, and the doomsday people? What are you doing and what are you paying attention to is going to matter the most. That's the biggest thing. That's what matters most. Keep watching my videos. They'll make you feel 1,000% better.